Hi guys, this is Rajat Vikram Pradhan and I welcome you to my YouTube channel. Hello guys, welcome to another class of English. Our today's chapter's name is Too Many Books. So what is the meaning of too many books? It means a lot of books. So our today's story is based on something called a hobby. So what is a hobby? So a hobby is anything that you do for enjoyment. Means it is something that gives you pleasure. So a lot of you, not lot, most of you have some or other type of hobby. Like some might have a hobby of drawing, some might have a hobby of painting, and some might have a hobby of reading storybooks. Even some people have a hobby of collecting currency notes or coins of other countries. So something similar is the hobby of the main character of our today's story. So let us go into our today's story. So the main character of our today's story is Mr. and Mrs. Johnson. They are a husband and a wife. So Mr. and Mrs. Johnson were very happy. They lived in a little house near the town. They did not have much money, but they loved each other a lot and they were very happy. So everything was perfect between them, but there was only one thing that Mrs. Johnson did not like about Mr. Johnson. So Mr. Johnson had a hobby of buying old books. So whenever he passed a bookshop which sold old books, he used to buy some of those books. So almost every day he used to come home with one or two books. So in their whole house there were bookshelves which were filled with books. So what are bookshelves? Bookshelves are those racks, or these are racks on which you keep your books. So their whole house was filled with books. The shelves were filled with books. There were books on the floor, there were books on the tables, there were books on the chairs. Everywhere there were books. But Mrs. Johnson did not say anything to her husband because she loved her husband a lot. And she knew that buying a lot of these old books used to make her husband happy. But see, if you keep a lot of these books at home, taking care of them, maintaining them, it is also very tiring, no? So she was very tired of dusting them. Dusting them means, see, dust gathers on books, right, if it is kept in one place for a long time. So she used to clean them. So she got tired of dusting all these books. So she told her husband, Mr. Johnson, why don't you sell some of these books? You are never going to read them all. That was true because there were so many books and Mr. and Mr. Johnson were already old. So she told her husband, why don't you sell some of these books? But her husband said, no, I don't want to sell these books. These books, they look beautiful when the firelight shines on the old leather. See, all these books are covered with leather, and this is the firelight, the one which I am highlighting. So when this firelight falls on these leather books, they shine and they look very beautiful. And when Mr. Johnson said that I will not sell these books, Mrs. Johnson did not say anything. And one day what happened, she became very angry. She told her husband, if you bring one more book to this house, she cried, I will go away and I will leave you. And when Mr. Johnson heard this, he felt very sad. So for 3-4 days, every day when he walked past the bookshops, he did not look inside. He was feeling really terrible that, see, on one hand he loved buying these books, but on the other hand he did not want his wife to leave him too. So one day what happened, he was walking down High Street. So High Street is name of a street, and there was on High Street the best bookshop of the town was there. So it started to rain and Mr. Johnson did not have an umbrella. So what happened? To get shelter from the rain, he ran inside the bookshop. So in the bookshop he saw there was a thin brown leather book with gold letters on the cover. It means, see this book here, it is brown and on it is written in golden letters. So he suddenly wanted to buy that book. It looked very beautiful and appealing to him. So he picked it up and he saw the name. The name of the book was The River Amazon. Okay, so he asked the shopkeeper, how much does this book cost? The shopkeeper replied, 5 shillings. So shillings is a currency of Britain. In Britain means England. It was used in England till 1971. So Mr. Johnson, he was so much in love with the book that he bought it, and he completely forgot that his wife had warned him, threatened him not to buy a book. So he bought it, and as soon as the rain stopped, he hurried home. When Mrs. Johnson saw another book coming into the house, she got very angry. She told her husband, I had told you I won't have another book in this house. And what she did is, she took the leather book from her husband's hand and she threw it out of the window. So Mr. Johnson, he saw that his beautiful book was lying on the wet grass outside on the garden, and he shouted at her wife, Dorothy, he said, and half filled with anger and half filled with sadness, he left his house. And after an hour, he returned his house. When he returned, he saw that his wife was waiting there with the book in her hand, and she told her husband, Robert, I'm really sorry. See, I have also mended your book. Mended means repaired your book. And Mr. Johnson, he went to the sitting room and he saw that there was a letter on the table. He asked his wife, what is this letter? Oh, she replied that it is just an old letter. I found it in the book in which I had thrown away. It's from some place I don't know. I think that this letter was in that book when it was new. And Mr. Johnson, he picked up the letter and he started to read it. So on the top the address was written and the year was written. The address was British Guyana, 1864. He stopped for a minute and he started thinking. Then he suddenly jumped up. He asked his wife, was the letter in an envelope? He cried and shouted. She said, yes. Why are you asking me that? He said, quick, go and get me the envelope. I want to see it. But his wife said, I don't know. I think I threw that envelope in the dustbin. But why are you asking me that? Mr. Johnson did not wait. He ran out of the house and he ran to the dustbin. He started to turn over the papers and the rubbish. He started searching the dustbin frantically, and he suddenly shouted, and he came inside and told his wife, I've got it. And he was waving an yellow envelope in his hand. See, you can see the envelope in his hand. And his wife asked, surprised by her husband's activities, why are you doing this? What is the matter with you? So he shouted, no, see the stamp, it is a 1 cent British Guyana 1864. Acha, for those who don't know what is a stamp is a small paper which is attached to a letter when you send the letter somewhere. So he told his wife, it's a 1 cent British Guyana stamp, and there is only one other such stamp in the world. And do you know that stamp was bought by another person an Australian last year for 12,000 pounds, and now we have got one. Then he suddenly took the red stamp from the envelope and he took down a stamp catalog. So a catalog is a book on which different types of things are shown, and he showed his wife the picture. British Guyana 1 cent 1864, which was sold for 12,000 pounds, and it was the same stamp. Then Mrs. Johnson asked her husband in all curiosity, Acha, so are we going to get 12,000 pounds for this one? Mr. Johnson said, I hope so, I hope we will get it. And Mrs. Johnson was extremely happy. She said, oh Robert, all this money in an old book, I'm never going to be angry ever for you buying all these books. And yeah, Mr. Johnson sold the stamp for 10,000 pounds, and which is a lot of money. And with that money they bought a much bigger house in the country. Country means out of the town. Now in the new house that they bought, there are bookshelves on the walls of almost all the rooms, and Mr. Johnson brings books every day, and all the shelves are almost nearly full. But Mrs. Johnson never complains. And why will she complain? Because of the hobby of her husband, they got 10,000 pounds. But now Mrs. Johnson has one nice big sitting room or the living room there where there are no books at all. So at the end, Mr. Johnson is happy, and Mr. Johnson is happy, and Mrs. Johnson is always also happy. So yeah friends, this is the end of the chapter, and I hope you understood this story, and I hope you also enjoyed it. We'll meet in the next class. Until then, thank you for watching. Bye bye.